because this was an explosive pages and pages on his Instagram story of accusations about, basically aimed at Victoria, about ruining the wedding.
Yes.
Humiliating him with a dance, stealing the first dance, which was supposed to be between him and his wife.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Retrover for the real breakdown behind celebrity power moves and headline-making drama. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next explosive update. For years, the Beckham family sold the world a flawless image, picture perfect, powerful, untouchable, almost royal in the way they moved. But that polished shine just cracked wide open, and now everyone can see what's really going on behind the curtain. The brand looked bulletproof, but the pressure building underneath was real, and it finally burst into public view. Right in the centre of the chaos stands Brooklyn Beckham, his wife Nicola Peltz, and her billionaire father Nelson Peltz, a man who, according to reports and insiders, allegedly never believed Brooklyn truly fit into his daughter's world. What started as quiet tension and subtle side eyes has reportedly blown up into a full-blown family clash. People are talking legal warnings, icy public statements, radio silence between the families, and a divide that looks almost impossible to fix. Now the big question shaking social media is intense. Is Brooklyn still calling his own shots, or has he slipped fully into the Peltz family circle? Behind the filtered Instagram smiles and sweet interviews, many believe there's a serious power struggle playing out. This isn't just gossip, it's about loyalty, control and influence at the highest level. Then things took a sharp turn when Brooklyn appeared to distance himself from his own parents with an emotional post that stunned fans everywhere. In that message, he accused David and Victoria of twisting the truth and caring more about their public image than their private family bond. The biggest shock of all, he claimed they disrespected Nicola, and that crossed the line for him. He didn't soften it, not even a little. His words landed heavy, direct, blunt and final. No vague hints, no mixed signals, just a clear message that he was standing by Nicola no matter what. He made it known he had no interest in fixing things right now. What really shook people was not just what he said, but how permanent it sounded. It felt like a door slamming shut. There was no olive branch, no "we're working it out," just a clean break that looked serious. But here's where the drama gets deeper. Reports from people close to the Beckhams claim that post didn't appear out of nowhere. Allegedly, something major happened just days before he went public. Sources say David and Victoria tried one last time to reach him through a private handwritten letter. No PR team, no social media spin, just parents writing directly to their son. That move alone raised huge questions. What was written in that letter? What could have triggered such a strong reaction? By that point, communication between them had fallen apart. There were even claims that Brooklyn requested his name not be discussed publicly and asked for any future contact to be handled formally. That step alone sent shockwaves through the family. It wasn't just unexpected, it was a serious escalation. But what truly unsettled people close to the situation was the growing suspicion that someone powerful inside the Peltz circle might be influencing the direction of this conflict. Some began to wonder, is this feud purely emotional, or is there strategy involved? That question started spreading fast. Sources say the Beckhams became convinced the legal tension didn't come from Brooklyn alone. They reportedly believe Nicola and her influential parents played a significant role in shaping the response. Meanwhile, those familiar with David and Victoria's side described their letter as emotional, not aggressive. It wasn't about attacking anyone, it was personal, worried and filled with concern. According to those accounts, they simply wanted reassurance that their son was okay. They wanted a sign that the connection they'd built over decades was still there. But instead of calming the situation, everything seemed to intensify even more, pushing this family rift into deeper and more dramatic territory. That heartfelt letter didn't calm the situation. If anything, it seemed to push Brooklyn even further away. Within days, he went public with a statement that sent shockwaves across social media. He said he was finally standing on his own 2 feet and shut down claims that Nicola was controlling him. According to Brooklyn, that narrative was completely false.
There was an absolutely explosive Instagram story post last night from Brooklyn Beckham, and
He went even further, saying that for most of his life, it was actually his parents who made the big decisions for him. That claim alone split public opinion fast. Some people supported him, others questioned the timing and the tone. But here's where the debate gets louder. While Brooklyn says he's independent now, critics point out that his life appears deeply connected to the Peltz family's world. He reportedly spends most of his time within their circle, attends events alongside them, and, according to reports, keeps communication with his parents very limited and structured. To outsiders, it doesn't look simple. Some see it as independence, others see it as full alignment with a new power base. The perception shift has been dramatic. Now the whispers have grown into a full-blown narrative. This isn't being framed as simple family tension anymore. People are calling it a battle of influence. Which family truly holds the power, the Beckhams or the Peltz family? And almost every version of this story circles back to one key moment, the wedding. More specifically, the now infamous first dance. Brooklyn has claimed that his mother stepped into what was meant to be a special moment for him and Nicola, and he said it left him embarrassed in front of guests. According to people who were there, emotions ran high, and Nicola became visibly upset and stepped away from the room for a while. That scene has now become one of the most talked about flashpoints in this entire family saga. People who attended the wedding say the mood flipped in seconds. One moment it was pure celebration, smiling faces and music filling the room. The next, the energy turned cold and tense, thick enough to feel without anyone saying a word. What was meant to be a symbol of unity reportedly became a moment that left a lasting mark. Even guests who tried to downplay it later admitted the dance was not just about a song. According to those familiar with the event, it touched on deeper issues, respect, emotion, and boundaries that may have felt crossed. For Nicola, many insiders claim that night became a turning point. After the wedding, sources say she made her feelings very clear. There would be no blurry middle ground anymore. Reports from people close to the situation suggest Brooklyn felt intense pressure to define where he stood. Some accounts even claim he believed he had to commit to his marriage first. From that point on, observers say his loyalty appeared firmly aligned with Nicola. Since then, the distance between the families has reportedly grown wider and colder. There have been claims of declined invitations, missed family events, and communication becoming extremely limited. Sources allege Nicola has chosen not to attend gatherings where David or Victoria are present, which has only deepened the silence. And sometimes, silence speaks louder than words. How you see it depends on your perspective. Some call it self-protection, others question the dynamics behind the scenes. But what cannot be ignored is the outcome. Brooklyn now appears separated from the family that once shaped his identity. Meanwhile, Nicola continues to move confidently within elite circles. And in the background, the quiet presence of powerful figures adds another layer of intrigue to this unfolding high society drama. And then there's her father, Nelson Peltz. He's not just wealthy, he's a billionaire investor, a heavyweight in the corporate world, known for strategy, discipline, and making bold moves without blinking. This is a man used to control and precision. According to multiple insider reports, he was never overly impressed with Brooklyn's career path. People close to the Peltz family claim Nelson quietly questioned Brooklyn's ventures, from photography to cooking projects to influencer-style branding, seeing them as creative but not fully focused. He hasn't criticized him publicly, he hasn't created a scene, but those who observe closely say his silence carries weight. It's not loud, but it's powerful. And let's be real, when someone with decades of business dominance behind them seems unconvinced, that perception alone can shift the dynamic, especially when Brooklyn now lives within that world and social circle every day. The power balance becomes impossible to ignore. There's another layer that raised eyebrows before the wedding even happened. Reports say a strict prenuptial agreement was signed. According to sources familiar with high-profile marriages, that agreement clearly outlines financial boundaries. If the marriage were ever to end, Brooklyn would only retain what he and Nicola built together. The Peltz family fortune would remain protected. That detail sparked heavy discussion. Some saw it as standard practice in ultra-wealthy families, others viewed it as a reminder of where the financial power stands. Either way, the agreement drew a hard line on paper. For the Beckhams, insiders suggest the concern was never about money itself. It was emotional security. According to reports, their worry centered on what could happen if Brooklyn ever found himself isolated after distancing from his family. The fear wasn't financial loss. It was the possibility of him losing his broader support system all at once. Sources say that possibility has weighed heavily on David and Victoria, not because of headlines, not because of wealth, but because at the core of all this public drama, they are still parents watching their son make life-altering decisions under intense pressure and influence. According to people close to the Beckhams, their biggest fear is simple but deep. They worry their son may have placed his entire future in someone else's hands, with no safety net behind him. That thought alone
and manipulate him. And he alleges they have even tried to get him to sign away the rights to his own name.
Meanwhile, his siblings continue building their careers, appearing at events and publicly supporting their parents. The family image moves forward, but one piece is clearly missing. The once picture-perfect portrait now has a visible gap, and everyone sees it. Now voices from Brooklyn's past are starting to speak up. Friends who knew him before Nicola, before the global spotlight, before the tension and the headlines. Some of them are sharing how they remember the young man who once stood at the center of the Beckham legacy, and what they're saying is stirring even more debate. One of the most unexpected voices didn't come from fashion or celebrity circles. It came from the football world. Brooklyn's former youth coach from his QPR days spoke publicly. He expressed sympathy, but not in the way people predicted. His comments added another layer to this already complicated story, raising fresh questions about growth, pressure, and how much a person can change under the weight of fame and family expectations. He didn't pick a side. He didn't defend David and Victoria, and he didn't applaud Brooklyn's decisions either. Instead, he described the childhood that sounded far more complicated than the glossy headlines ever showed. He painted a picture of a young Brooklyn dealing with heavy anxiety, intense expectations, and a family environment that, in his view, often felt overwhelming. According to the coach, by the age of 14, Brooklyn was already living with constant security around him, not just fame, but protection that followed him everywhere. He described it as growing up behind invisible walls. From the outside, it looked like privilege and luxury. From the inside, he suggested, it may not have felt peaceful at all. The coach explained that even from the sidelines, he sensed pressure weighing on Brooklyn. He was used to training children from high-profile families, but he implied this situation felt different. The spotlight, the protection, the expectations, it all created moments that seemed heavy for someone so young. He didn't directly blame anyone. He didn't accuse, but the tone of his words carried weight. His main point was clear. Brooklyn did not experience a typical childhood, not even close. And growing up in an environment like that can shape how someone responds to conflict later in life. When you live under constant scrutiny, the desire for control and independence can feel urgent. Some observers now wonder if stepping away from everything familiar felt to Brooklyn like the only way to finally breathe freely. And here's where the story turns deeply complex. Strip away the drama, the headlines, the social media debates, and one uncomfortable truth stands out. Brooklyn grew up in a world where love, loyalty, status, and power were tightly connected. Those lines were never simple. Observers also point out something else. Nicola did not step away from her world. She remained close to her family, rooted in her circle, secure in her environment. Brooklyn, on the other hand, appears to have shifted entirely into hers. And that shift has become one of the most talked about elements in this unfolding high-profile family saga. She kept her safety net close. She remained financially secure, grounded in her own environment, surrounded by her family's influence and stability. Brooklyn, on the other hand, appears to have taken a very different road. Reports suggest he created distance from his parents, stepped away from the structure that shaped him, and placed his emotional future inside one household, the powerful Peltz circle. That contrast is what has many observers concerned, not because Nicola is being labeled as manipulative, not because Brooklyn is being called weak, but because isolation can shift dynamics in quiet ways. When one person or one family becomes your main emotional anchor, their influence can naturally grow stronger over time, even without direct pressure. And then there's Nelson Peltz. Despite his name appearing in headline after headline, he has remained publicly silent. No long interviews, no official denials, no public defense of his son-in-law. For someone known in business circles as calculated and strategic, that silence stands out. People familiar with his reputation describe him as decisive and blunt, a man who speaks directly when he chooses to, but only when it serves a purpose. Some reports claim he views Brooklyn as still searching for direction, a young man trying to define himself while carrying a famous last name that opens doors but doesn't automatically command respect. That perception may not tell the full story, it may not be entirely fair, but it has added another layer of tension to an already complicated situation, where identity, independence, loyalty and influence are all colliding in full public view. In the world of power and high status, perception can mean everything. And according to insiders, Nelson Peltz's skepticism towards Brooklyn has reportedly grown as the conflict with his parents continues to escalate. In elite social circles, distancing yourself completely from your own family is often viewed as complicated. Some see independence, others quietly see instability. And that perception alone can shift how someone is judged behind closed doors. Moves like that send a message, just maybe not the one Brooklyn intended. Another major layer in this ongoing rift is his search for identity, especially when it comes to his career. Over the years, he has explored photography, cooking projects, and lifestyle branding. Each new direction sparked public debate, and according to reports, raised private questions inside the Peltz household as well. The contrast is hard to ignore. David Beckham built his global reputation through discipline, long-term focus, and consistency on the field and in business. Brooklyn's journey, by comparison, has appeared more experimental and evolving. That difference stands out because the Beckham name is tied to legacy and endurance, while the Peltz reputation is linked to performance and measurable results. When those two mindsets meet, tension is almost guaranteed.
One insider even claims Nelson was never fully convinced that Brooklyn brought clear value, financially, strategically, or symbolically. From that perspective, some observers suggest Brooklyn may be viewed as still developing rather than fully established. Meanwhile, people close to David and Victoria say they watched this transformation unfold slowly over time, noticing shifts in confidence, priorities, and loyalty long before the public ever caught on. According to sources close to the family, the real turning point came when Brooklyn reportedly began deferring major decisions and allowing others to speak on his behalf. When private family conversations allegedly started being routed through legal representatives, David and Victoria are said to have realized something had permanently shifted. To them, that was not normal tension, that was a full change in direction. Those in their circle insist Brooklyn wasn't always this distant. They claim he didn't once describe his parents as villains, didn't frame himself as controlled, and didn't carry this level of resentment. That's their version of events. Brooklyn, however, has firmly denied that narrative and maintains that he is simply protecting his peace and speaking his truth. Still, the timeline has raised eyebrows. Observers note that as his marriage grew stronger, his connection to his parents appeared to weaken. Correlation does not prove cause, but in high-profile families, perception spreads fast. And one of the most telling details in this entire saga is who has stayed out of it completely. Brooklyn's siblings have not publicly joined the dispute. They continue attending events with their parents, sharing family moments online, and building their own careers without cutting ties. That contrast has fueled heavy speculation. Some people now argue this may be deeply personal rather than evidence of a larger family pattern. And that leads to the question many keep asking. If the Beckham household was truly as restrictive as Brooklyn suggests, why is he the only one who stepped away? That question alone has kept debates alive across social media.
Online, Brooklyn has received praise from supporters who see him as someone setting boundaries and choosing independence. But insiders claim the emotional cost has been intense. Casual phone calls reportedly stopped, spontaneous visits disappeared, family dinners became a memory. Every interaction now appears formal, structured, and handled with caution through representatives or intermediaries. What was once effortless now seems carefully managed, and shift may be the most dramatic change of all. When a family reaches that level of distance, rebuilding trust can feel like climbing a mountain with no clear path to the top. Most celebrity family disputes follow a familiar pattern. First comes the shock, then silence, eventually a polished public reunion photo. But this situation feels different, deeper, and far more complicated. Because what's unfolding here doesn't seem purely emotional, it appears structural. This isn't just about hurt feelings, it's about two influential families from very different worlds colliding, with one son positioned right in the center. Different values, different power dynamics, different expectations. And the longer this quiet standoff continues, the more permanent it starts to look. That leads to the question many are hesitant to say out loud. What happens if Brooklyn ever reconsiders? Walking away can feel clear and justified in the moment, but coming back requires humility, reflection, and willingness from both sides. That's never simple, especially when everything has played out so publicly. Sources close to David and Victoria claim they remain hopeful and open to reconciliation someday. They reportedly believe time can soften even the hardest stances. But other voices connected to the situation suggest emotions have hardened more than people realize. Distance has a way of changing everyone involved. If Brooklyn decided tomorrow that he wanted to reconnect, the path might not look exactly like it once did. Time shifts perspectives, pain reshapes boundaries, and when silence stretches on for months, it can quietly build walls that are difficult to tear down. That's what makes this feud feel so heavy. Once pride and hurt settle in, even strong bonds can struggle under the weight. And now, after months of distance and speculation, new whispers are starting to circulate. Could a turning point be coming, or has too much already happened to rewind what's been set in motion? Both families have kept their distance publicly, but insiders suggest that behind closed doors, the atmosphere may be slowly shifting. There are claims that an upcoming major family milestone, possibly a significant Beckham celebration, could place everyone in the same room for the first time in years. That possibility alone has people on edge. Will it open the door to reconciliation or trigger another wave of tension? Sources close to David and Victoria say they've quietly signaled they are open to a private truce. Nothing dramatic, no press moment, just a simple step, maybe a phone call, maybe a message, to begin easing the distance. According to those accounts, they are waiting patiently for Brooklyn to make the first move. On the other side, reports suggest the Peltz camp views any reunion cautiously, not necessarily because of unresolved emotion, but because of optics. In high-profile circles, one unexpected photo or one misinterpreted comment can spark headlines within minutes. From that perspective, even a small gathering carries real risk. Still, many observers believe the current standoff cannot stretch on forever. The pressure continues to build, and both families are fully aware that the public is analyzing every signal. For the Beckhams, a reunion could represent healing and stability after a long...
If this anticipated meeting does happen, it likely won't pass unnoticed. Every glance, every handshake, every subtle interaction will be examined closely. The stakes feel high because this isn't just another celebrity moment, it's a collision between two powerful family legacies. Now the question hangs in the air. Could this be the moment that begins repair, or has the divide grown too deep to close? Whatever happens next, it's clear that when these two influential families cross paths again, the spotlight will be intense and the outcome impossible to ignore. As rumors grow about a possible reunion, the spotlight on both families feels hotter than ever. Cameras are already circling, tabloids are preparing bold headlines, social media users are on standby, ready to react in seconds. If these two powerful worlds cross paths again, the reaction will be instant and intense.
The big question hanging over everything is simple. Will that meeting bring closure or spark fresh chaos? Insiders claim the Beckhams are quietly preparing, both emotionally and publicly, in case the moment actually happens. Reports suggest David has told close friends he's willing to let the past stay in the past. Victoria, on the other hand, is said to be more guarded, focused on protecting her family's dignity while still holding on to hope for peace. What remains uncertain is how Brooklyn would respond if he suddenly found himself face to face with the parents he has kept distance from for so long. That kind of moment carries weight. Emotions could rise fast. Silence could feel louder than words. On the Peltz side, observers describe the mood as cautious. Nicola, who has stepped back from public drama recently, is reportedly balancing loyalty to her husband with a desire to avoid another intense media cycle. No one wants a repeat of explosive headlines. And then there's Nelson, still publicly silent, still steady, still strategic. His refusal to comment has fueled endless speculation. Some wonder if he's quietly shaping events behind the scenes. Others believe he's simply letting time handle what words cannot. Either way, his presence looms large. One thing is certain, whatever happens next won't remain private for long. There are too many cameras, too many commentators, and too many narratives already in motion. Whether the outcome is a heartfelt embrace or another dramatic headline, the world will be watching every second of it unfold. This feud has already turned into one of the most talked about family sagas in celebrity culture, and the next chapter had the power to change everything. When the long-anticipated moment finally arrived, it carried exactly the tension people expected. The Beckhams and the Peltz family ended up under the same roof again. According to witnesses, the atmosphere felt heavy before anyone even spoke a word. There were no flashing cameras, no official press releases, just a private gathering that felt anything but relaxed. Brooklyn and Nicola reportedly arrived together, staying close but keeping a slight distance from the rest of the room at first. David and Victoria stood side by side, calm on the surface, yet visibly guarded. Insiders describe the opening minutes as almost frozen in time. Polite nods, tight smiles, long pauses that said more than any speech could. Eventually, David is said to have broken the silence with a simple line, "It's been too long." That quiet statement reportedly shifted the energy. Emotions rose, conversations turned softer, a few tears were seen. For a brief moment, the situation looked less like a headline and more like a real family trying to navigate pain after years of public pressure. Still, the tension didn't disappear completely. It lingered in subtle glances and careful movements. Sources claim Nicola remained close to Brooklyn throughout the evening, composed, attentive, aware of every detail. At one point, Victoria and Brooklyn reportedly shared a short but emotional exchange that left the room completely silent. There was no shouting, no accusations, just a fragile honesty that felt long overdue. By the end of the night, both families left separately, avoiding photographers and declining to make statements, but those who were present say something undeniably shifted. Not a full resolution, not a complete breakthrough, just a small crack in the wall that has divided them for years. For the first time in a long while, hope no longer feels out of reach, but whether that hope grows stronger or fades again is still uncertain. Big questions remain. Would Nicola fully support a complete reconciliation? Would Nelson Peltz feel comfortable with it? Or has too much already happened to rewind the story? Right now, it appears the Beckham family exist in two separate realities, one side moving forward together, the other standing firm in a different direction. Brooklyn continues to say he has no regrets. He stands by his decisions and the life he has chosen, confident in the path he's on.
Meanwhile, David and Victoria are holding on to something quieter, but just as powerful: patience. According to friends, they are willing to wait as long as it takes for healing, even if that wait stretches far into the future. That kind of hope is steady, but it carries weight. And at the center of everything remains Nicola, present, composed, impossible to overlook. Depending on who you ask, the interpretation shifts. Some see her as a loyal wife protecting her marriage and keeping her household united. Others view her as strategic and highly aware, carefully navigating one of the most complex celebrity family conflicts in recent memory. In a story filled with influence, legacy, and emotion, perspective shapes everything. And as this chapter continues to unfold, the balance between loyalty, independence, and reconciliation remains delicately poised.
And just when it feels like the storm might calm down, a new layer of pressure starts building again. Because in circles this powerful, nothing stays still for long. Business moves are being watched, social appearances are being analyzed. Even the smallest gesture, who stands next to who skips which event, turns into headline material within minutes. Sources say Brooklyn has been focusing heavily on carving out a clearer identity for himself. New projects, new meetings, new energy. He reportedly wants to prove he's more than just a famous last name or someone's husband. That drive could change everything if it sticks. Reinvention in elite space isn't easy, but it's not impossible either. At the same time, those close to the Beckhams suggest David has been quietly reaching out through neutral channels, keeping communication respectful and low-key. No pressure, no drama, just subtle reminders that the line is still open. That kind of patience can either rebuild bridges or stretch them thinner. Meanwhile, Nicola continues to stand firmly beside Brooklyn, publicly supportive, calm under scrutiny. She's been showing up polished and composed, giving nothing away. Some call that strength, others call it strategy. Either way, she's not stepping back from the spotlight. And then there's the bigger picture: legacy, reputation, long-term influence. These families don't just think about today, they think in decades. Every move now could shape how this story is remembered years from now. Will Brooklyn eventually stand as the bridge between two dynasties, or will he become the symbol of a permanent split? One thing is clear: the tension may have softened, but the stakes are still sky high. In a world where power, pride, and family collide, even the smallest decision can flip the entire script overnight. As the dust slowly settles, a new phase of this saga is beginning to shape up. The loud confrontations may have cooled, but the emotional chess game is far from over. Every appearance, every business move, every subtle shift in tone is being examined like evidence in a high-stakes trial of legacy and loyalty. Insiders say Brooklyn feels the pressure to prove that his independence is real and lasting. Not just emotional, but professional. There's talk that he wants to lock in one clear direction and finally silence the critics who question his focus. If he succeeds, that alone could rebalance the entire narrative around him. On the Beckham side, patience remains the strategy. Friends claim David and Victoria understand that pushing too hard could backfire, so instead they're choosing restraint. Quiet support from a distance, no public ultimatums, just consistency. And sometimes steady energy speaks louder than dramatic gestures. Meanwhile, Nicola continues to move carefully but confidently. She's reportedly determined to protect marriage from outside noise. Some observers interpret her actions as fiercely loyal. Others believe she's simply guarding her space in a situation that spiraled far beyond private family matters. Either way, she isn't stepping aside. What makes this chapter even more intense is the reality that reputations are on the line. These aren't ordinary families. They are brands, legacies, and power networks woven into global culture. Any reconciliation or permanent divide will ripple far beyond personal feelings.
Now the real question is not just whether peace is possible, it's whether all sides are willing to adjust pride, perception, and power to make it happen. Because in this layered, resolution doesn't come from one dramatic moment, it comes from quiet decisions made behind closed doors. And until those decisions are made, the world will keep watching, waiting for the next move in a story that refuses to fade from the spotlight. Now a new question is starting to surface, and it's one nobody can ignore. What does this story look like 5 years from now? Because headlines fade, but family history doesn't. The choices being made today could define relationships for decades. Some insiders believe time will naturally soften the edges. They argue that distance sometimes creates clarity, that once emotions cool and outside noise fades, conversations become easier. In that version of the future, this chapter becomes a painful phase that eventually strengthens everyone involved. Others aren't so sure. They say when separation goes on too long, it starts to feel normal. New routines form, new traditions replace old ones, and slowly, without anyone announcing it, the gap becomes permanent. That's the risk hanging quietly in the background. Brooklyn, according to those close to him, is focused on building stability in his own household. He reportedly wants peace, privacy, and a strong foundation with Nicola. That's his priority right now. Meanwhile, David and Victoria remain, continuing their public lives while keeping personal matters guarded and dignified. What makes this situation so intense is that no one involved appears reckless. No one is publicly attacking, no explosive interviews, just controlled silence and carefully chosen words. And sometimes that kind of restraint makes the tension even louder. At its core, this isn't just about fame or fortune, it's about identity, about what happens when a son grows up inside a global spotlight, and
whether this saga ends in unity or remains a lasting split, it has already become a defining chapter in the legacy of both families, and the final outcome is still unwritten. As this story keeps unfolding, one final layer makes it even more intense: the legacy factor. These families are not just thinking about today's emotions, they're thinking about long-term image, generational wealth, and how history will remember this chapter. In circles this influential, reputation is currency. Observers say the real battle may not be loud at all. It may come down to quiet positioning. Who shows unity first? Who extends grace publicly? Who stays silent the longest? Every move now feels strategic, even when it's emotional, and that's what makes this situation so complex. Brooklyn's next steps could define everything. If he locks in a focused career path and builds undeniable success, critics may fade away. Independence becomes stronger when it's backed by results. On the other hand, if uncertainty continues, the pressure and commentary will only grow louder. David and Victoria, according to those close to them, remain careful not to escalate. They understand that reacting emotionally in public could damage any chance of long-term healing, so they maintain composure, appear steady, keep moving forward. That quiet discipline has always been part of their brand. Nicola, meanwhile, continues to stand confidently at Brooklyn's side. To supporters, she represents loyalty and strength. To skeptics, she represents influence and control. The truth likely lives somewhere in between, but perception is powerful, and perception drives narratives. And then there's the next generation to consider. Family legacies aren't just about the present moment, they're about future milestones, future children, future celebrations. The longer the divide lasts, the more complicated those future chapters become. At the end of it all, this saga isn't just about who was right or wrong. It's about growth, pride, boundaries, and whether two powerful dynasties can find common ground without losing face. That's the real test. One thing is undeniable: the world will keep watching, not just for drama, but for resolution. Because when legacy, love, and power collide on this level, the ending won't just close a chapter, it will shape an entire family history.
One thing is undeniable. Brooklyn Beckham's world has changed forever. The golden boy who once stood at the center of Britain's most iconic family now walks a path that looks completely different from the one he was born into. Whether that road ever leads back home is the question hanging in the air. Time has a way of softening wounds, but pride can lock doors just as fast. Maybe healing is still possible. Maybe distance will only grow deeper. Either way, this chapter has already carved its place in celebrity history. The story of the Beckhams and the Peltz family has turned into a modern legend. Love, loyalty, power, and the heavy cost of choosing sides, all wrapped into one high-stakes saga. And no matter where you stand, you can't deny the impact. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Brooklyn will ever reconnect fully with his family, or has that bridge burned for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you've been following every twist and turn, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more updates, and share it with anyone who's been watching this drama unfold. Let's talk about it. Before we dive into today's story, make sure you're locked in with Retrover. This is the place where celebrity power moves, behind-the-scenes tension, and untold drama get unpacked in a way you won't hear anywhere else. We don't just repeat headlines, we break down the layers, the influence, and the real stakes behind every moment. If you're into high-profile family sagas, legacy battles, and the kind of stories that shake elite circles, you're in the right spot. Retrover brings sharp insight, strong storytelling, and all the details that matter, without the noise. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Trust me, the next twist could drop at any second, and you'll want to be first to know. Like the video, share it with your friends, and join the conversation in the comments. Welcome to Retrover, where power, drama, and legacy collide.